All right, MMA Weekly Radio's The Lowdown. Jake Hatton, Scott Peterson, here to bring you the hot MMA news. Well, Neil Magny pulled out the other day for the UFC Rochester fight, the co-main event fight. And today, this evening, it was just announced. He let it be announced on his social media as ESPN was reporting that he failed a drug test. And it's one that I haven't heard before, but it's in the family of Austrian, that SARM that was reported a couple weeks ago with Nico and a couple of other fighters testing positive for. LGD 4033, a selective androgen receptor module. And Neil Magny said, quote, "I am fully cooperating with USADA to determine how this substance was found in the sample I provided them on May 5th, 2019. I have always been an advocate for the strict drug testing in the UFC, even to the extent of opting for my collected samples to be used for research purposes by USADA. I know without a doubt that I have done everything according to the standards set by USADA. I have faith in USADA that this situation will be resolved in a timely manner and that I will be cleared of any wrongdoing." Man, oh man, it just never ends. Jake, the man, the myth, not yet the legend, but we're working on that. What?
Not quite there.
I got a thing right in my face. It's probably better that way. So, what are your thoughts on it? It's just all the time. How much of this is a tainted sample problem that we're seeing?
I think quite a bit of it is. I think it's probably half and half. But I don't know Neil personally. I've never got a chance to train with him, but I've worked with his and a lot of his team. Elliot Marshall and Christian over there. They're just a great bunch of guys. And from everything they tell me about Neil, he's a pretty stand-up guy. I'd be surprised if he did anything below the belt.
So, in your opinion, why do the fighters come out to get ahead of this? What is in their favor to do this?
I'm not sure if you come out and admit it with USADA, if it's a lighter sentence and the cooperation, like I said, lessens the time you're out, or if he's just a stand-up guy and said, hey, look, I didn't do this. I think it's wrong, and I have faith that they'll clean it up.
On to the next piece of news. Alexander Volkanovski hospitalized while traveling home from UFC 237. So he gets on the plane from Rio de Janeiro. He says in here he is complaining of sore feet, redness of his left foot, and feeling sick as he was leaving his hotel in Rio de Janeiro on Monday. And then he had a stopover, a layover in Santiago, and the fever, swelling of the foot had increased. At that point, they went to see a doctor at the airport who advised them to take Volkanovski to the hospital where he was admitted and is being treated with antibiotics and awaits blood test results. Then it was tweeted, "Alex is okay. He is being treated for an infection that developed quickly while on our flight home. We are currently in Chile and will provide updates as they come to hand. The medical staff has been fantastic. He's in good hands and Alex is in good spirits." Man, how scary is that? You just get done. Wow.
It's really scary, and it's one of those things that just it escalated so quickly that let's just say a prayer that he's going to be okay and has a speedy recovery. We've seen these things they go from 0 to 1,000 so quick with so many fighters, especially when you're fighting not in your own country. It's always a little scary. Where do you get the water from? What types of food are you eating? You're out a little bit out of your comfort zone.
And I'm actually a little bit surprised that there haven't been really any issues or more issues or whatever of fighters after having been in a fight, haven't gone through a lot of damage, that going on these long flights like from Brazil, and he's going back to his home country. I mean, at least I would guess over 20-hour travel, and what about getting blood clots, things like of that nature. Yeah,
that is scary. And I'll tell you, when I was coming home from Japan, my last fight, I couldn't sleep the entire night, so I stayed up and I passed out on the plane, and I slept in the same position for quite some time. And I woke up and my ankles were just enormous. They were double the size. And, that's when the blood clotting starts. And it is scary because if you're not up and moving, so something so simple, so add any other ailments that some of these fighters are going through, it's scary stuff.
Wow. Well, we hope for Volkanovski for a quick recovery on that. Now, he just beat Jose Aldo, and he's on the winning streak from hell. He says he should get that fight with Max Holloway, but it looks like Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar are in the works for July, for International Fight Week.
Well, this is Volkanovski's 17th win in a row. And I don't care what organization you're in. There's so many ways to win and lose in mixed martial arts. A 17-fight win streak's amazing. But, I mean, geez, he's beat Darren Elkins. He's beat Chad Mendes. He beat Jose Aldo in Brazil, in his hometown. I mean, if anybody should deserve a title shot, it should be him. However, we're talking about Rocky Balboa, Frankie Edgar. He beat Cub Swanson in 2018. He's won 3 out of 4. He's won his last 8 out of 10. And his last loss was to Brian Ortega. So
we lost you there. But his
sorry,
last loss was Brian Ortega.
Last loss to Brian Ortega. But I don't have a huge problem with Frankie fighting Max because Volkanovski is going to get the winner, and all three of these guys, obviously Max is he's a destroyer and he's won so many, and he's still the champ in that division. So Frankie, fights Max, and then they obviously give him Volkanovski. I think that's great because you're really weeding out, and you're going to find out who the true champion is.
Right. Well, as you guys know, this is a call-in show, and we let me put the number, and we have a very savvy caller that called in before we even put this number up, 702-799-9984. Who do we got on the line, and what do you want to talk about?
Terry from Colorado. I want to talk about Neil testing hot.
Yes. A surprise, and what are your thoughts on that? It's one of another SARM. It's not Austrian like we talked about a couple weeks ago, but in that same kind of drug family. Obviously too early to say anything, but as a fan, what's your first reaction?
Man, it really, it's so unfair. There is no testing done on sports supplements whatsoever. Athletes get supplements. They depend on what's on the label, and then they get just completely crucified because a manufacturer threw something in there that wasn't on the label. And most athletes can't afford to get a mass spectrometer done on every supplement they take.
Yeah,
it's
there's
really
no way.
sad. There's a mass case of there was 9 LAPD officers that tested positive for steroids. They actually did a lie detector. All 9 passed. All 9 swear they never took them. They did a little more research, and they found out that all 9 were taking a supplement that they bought from a very well-known supplement chain.
Right.
So they tested that over-the-counter supplement, and it actually contained the steroid that they tested positive for. Now, are they really guilty of trying to cheat or do something wrong?
No, obviously not. But the onus is on the fighters. They say you are responsible for what you put into your body. And so, and they give you, they have their pre-approved list, but I mean, what can you do? I mean, the UFC's talking about coming out with their own supplement line. So I don't know if that's the answer. I mean, do you think that's what needs to happen, or the fighters need to strictly stay on, you take these that USADA puts out? I mean, what's the answer there?
Honestly, I think it's time that the federal government gets in the supplement game. The supplement's a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. You test drugs to the maximum. You know what? Start testing the supplements companies. They can afford it. They're making enough money. And let's actually get some real results and get something that's healthy for fighters to take. Now, fighters that are taking EPO or they get popped doing tests, it is what it is. They tried to get away with something. They got caught with their hand in a cookie jar. I just don't think Neal's one of those guys. He just, and it's a personal opinion, but he just doesn't seem the type. He doesn't look the type.
Are you saying that Neal doesn't look like a tough guy? He thinks he looks weak?
No, not at all. I'm just
kidding.
He doesn't seem like a guy who's trying to bulk up and
yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, well, good points. Good points. Now we are going to we're talking about also Frankie Edgar getting the shot against Max Holloway. Do you think Edgar should get that shot before Volkanovski? What's your personal opinion?
I do, but I hate to see that fight because I love those two guys, and I think that that's going to be another fight that just takes years off their career. Those are just two incredibly tough individuals. I love Frankie Edgar. I love Max Holloway, but that is a tough fight for each of them. I mean, I give Holloway the edge, but great fight for the fans. Really, really hard fight for each other. But I do believe Edgar gets the nod. I think he earned it.
All right, Terry. Hey, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
You got it. Good show, man. Keep it up.
So we got Holloway, we got Edgar coming up, and who comes back in? I think Conor gets a feel of when people aren't talking enough about him, and then he somehow works his way back into the news.
He knows how to market himself. Come on.
Charges dropped against Conor McGregor in the phone smashing incident in Miami. Way to go, Conor. All charges against Conor McGregor in the phone smashing incident in Miami have been dropped. The state attorney's office opted not to pursue the case any further after the victim, Ahmed, I'm not even going to try to say that last name, failed to cooperate with investigators. Ahmed already settled a lawsuit he filed against McGregor out of court. Oh, I bet he did. I bet that was a good settle. I bet he at least got a new phone. Do you think he got a flip phone, or what do you think happened there?
I think he did a little bit better than a flip phone.
I would even say, I would go as far as to say Conor even threw in one of those nice new leather cases for that phone. So next time he throws it, it kind of gets a little bounce off the ground. It doesn't break all of a sudden. Come on, get a good case. Get a good case.
So he got a prepaid phone and a case out of it. It's perfect.
I love it. It's a great deal for everybody involved. The victim of the quote, the victim of the crime does not wish to return to the United States and prosecute this case. Okay, so the guy was visiting, and he got his free phone and a new phone case, and so anyway, but this isn't really what I want to talk about with McGregor and iPhones and Androids or whatever. So he was supposed to meet with Dana last week, as Dana came on to ESPN and mentioned, okay, I want this. I think the Cowboy fight makes sense, and then whammo, Cowboy gets a different fight.
I got to tell you, I was so proud of myself, and I said, hey, the only fight that makes sense is Cowboy or Nate Diaz. And guess what? I was wrong about both. I did not see that one coming, and I don't know who you put Conor with, unless I'm gonna throw a little conspiracy out here again. I don't know if we've seen the Poirier-Khabib fight inked yet. Because I'll be honest, what other fight makes sense? I love
Okay. Okay, so is it just coincidence as like supposed to talk with Conor and Cowboy is the fight that Dana is saying, and like you said, the only other fight that kind of makes sense, get those big bangs, is Nate Diaz. They both get fights the same week that he's supposed to meet with Dana. So did he meet with Dana and things go totally south? or did they not meet, causing things to go south? It just
the
seems
UFC
that things have gone south.
Yeah, I mean, is the UFC icing them? Are they flexing their muscles? We know this. When the UFC started, they wanted to stay away from the WWE model. And Dana in the UFC always said that he will be bigger than any fighter. So they've always marketed Dana so he would be bigger than any fighter. So guys like Hulk Hogan and some of these wrestlers couldn't take advantage of the system. Well, then Conor comes in, and let's be honest, he's got his way quite a bit. But is it the UFC possibly flexing their muscle, or is it just weird negotiations? I don't know. At this point, I'm as clueless as anybody.
I find it hard to believe that they're not. And we got Helio 2003 in the chat room. Conor McGregor. Conor is going to be a lawyer soon with all the court experience. Oh, man. Yeah, oh, okay. Yeah, that is... Yeah, Cowboy got screwed. He should have held out, says Zan3119. And Helio says secret contracts. Yeah, but I find it interesting, like you said. Has the ink gone to the paper on Poirier versus Khabib? I mean, it almost seems like he's... It almost seems like he's getting iced out, that Conor's getting iced out, unless a fight with Khabib has come through.
I mean, the only fight that to me makes sense, and again, shout out to Gaethje. I'm a huge fan. How could you not love watching that guy? But from a marketing standpoint and a fight that, Conor loves those iconic fights and the fights that move the needle, everybody's matched up. The champ Khabib with Poirier, Tony Ferguson is fighting Anthony Pettis. That leaves Conor at 4 and Gaethje at 5. Then at Alakenta 6, he just lost. Kevin Lee's fighting RDA at welterweight at 7. Edson Barboza's at 8. I don't know if that one will move the needle, but shout out to Edson Barboza, one of the most dynamic strikers we've seen in the UFC. Anthony Pettis at 9. We know where his fight's at. And then that leaves Paul Felder at 10. So you also have a little hole a little gap to fix with Gaethje as well.
So is Gaethje going to be the draw? Or is Khabib the only other one? And then, with Conor, you have to think outside the box of weight divisions too. What about a fight with Colby at welterweight? You heard it here first.
I don't hate that fight. No,
we are the channel of conspiracies and internationalist orders.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that one it could actually, because Colby's such a dynamic figure, but I'm not sure if he's been in the news enough, or if their camp thinks that that fight would do it. I don't know if Conor is going to get up for that particular fight.
Helio says, I don't think Conor has the fight in him now after all the money. Maybe. Oh. But he's been in. Who knows? He's been in there teasing it with training footage. Frogo Creature never again on the octagon. I would suppose he's saying that would be referring to Conor. Well, we shall see. We shall see. On to the next piece of news. Ronda Rousey reveals she hopes to be remembered for her career in the UFC. And so Ronda Rousey's kind of just been really on the down low or the no low as far as MMA goes since she left the UFC. But she says here, I want my legacy to be I was a force of good and mankind was better off because I effing existed. She said in an interview with the UFC, I don't need people to know that. I just need to have that effect.
Wow.
A force of good and mankind was better off because I effing...
Wow. I mean, the truth is she, in my opinion, and only my opinion, she came in at a time where she was just so much more dominant than all these other girls. And you've watched these women, and they train hard, and they've caught up. And when they caught up, we saw what happened. So, she was champ, and we'll never take that away from her. However, I think a lot of people, again, in the circle that I know in the MMA world, aren't very happy with her and haven't been for quite some time. And, a lot of them, people say that she was a terrible role model. And, if I had a little girl, I got to be honest, I'd want her to be a better sport than Ronda was. Just not shaking hands, just leaving the ring. I mean, part of the beauty of mixed martial arts is you get in there and you let it go and you give everything you have. And if your opponent beats you, you go over there, even if you don't like him, you shake hands, a quick hug, and you walk off, and you were better that day. You look at Conor, you look at Anderson Silva, you look at some of these other guys that lose, and they lose with grace. They come back and say, hey, I lost, he was better, I'm going to come back, stronger the next time. And we didn't see that from Ronda.
Yeah, Zan3119 says, do you guys not agree? She should have just went back and worked on her boxing, her ground game, and grappling is amazing. She could come back. And I do agree with Zan3119. And we're not saying she has not been extremely talented. I think what bothers some people is the way she went out, and without, hey, you go in the ring, you really don't owe anybody anything. But I think what rubs people the wrong way, and especially if you're saying, I want my legacy to be a force of good of mankind, that, you got to look back. Were you that example? Were you that example for those young girls? Because she was great, but in my opinion, when things got tough at the end, she didn't come back. It didn't appear like she had the fight in her, and like Anderson Silva, he's been going and losing, and we're going to get to him and BJ Penn, but these are guys that have been losing, but it is in their DNA. It's who they are. They are fighters. And they overcome, or try to overcome at least. It's that fight. And it's that fight that we love to see. It's the fight of all odds against you. And when you just fold, I mean, that, it's not all about just winning. We want to see the journey. And we want to see you try to fight to get up to the top of the hill. And I think that's just what was missing from her career. But then,
well, she did this last fight against Amanda Nunes. She came back. She told the UFC, "I'm not doing any media because it's obviously, let's face it, it's strenuous." She just focused on her training. I really thought she thought she was going to come in there and just wipe the mat with Amanda Nunes. But again, I'm not taking anything away from Ronda's skill level. She was an incredible Olympic athlete. She's a very, very gifted athlete. However, these women they're just that much better now, and I think she saw that, and that's why she took her toys and left the sandbox.
Well, yeah, and on to the next thing. On to the next thing. Now, UFC 237, is this going to be known as the show, the retirement show? And it was like those that maybe should retire didn't, and those that said they wanted to retire shouldn't. Got some odd.
Looks that way.
Rose Namajunas, uncertain about her future following the loss at UFC 237. I mean, this is a girl that has surprised me, especially out. And you, as having fought, Jake, the mental game is so huge. It's such a huge part. And there's been things, with the bus incident and just things, whatever. I've questioned Rose in the past on, does she have that mental toughness? And it doesn't matter what happens outside the octagon. Every time she's in that octagon, she delivers. And she lost this time, but she was delivering, and that fight was amazing against Andrade. And so whatever you say, I'm a total believer in Rose. Even whatever's happening outside, for some weird reason, it doesn't affect her, even though she seems to think it did affect her I'm going to play some audio here from the press conference on what she had to say. And here we go.
Arguments to ask for revenge, a rematch.
Yeah, I've been hearing that, and I definitely was whooping her butt. There's no doubt about that. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's just, we'll see if I'm still interested in this.
You can.
I mean, I know I could beat her, but I don't know.
But what do you mean? What do you mean about that? Are you not considering to
Still
run for the title
interested.
again?
No, I just want to do something else with my life right now.
Like retirement?
I don't know. It's
I just want to do something else with my life right now. Now let me just say this. These guys are doing the toughest thing in the world, in any sport, in my opinion. And they go get their brains beat in. And then it's like microphone right in front of their face right afterwards. And then they come to the press conference and they're expected to perform at top level after going through a war. It's not actually, fair in a way, but it's part of the game. We want to hear from them after the fight. And she's saying, yeah, I don't know if I want to, do this anymore. Surprising to me.
It is and it's not, because when you're a pro fighter, you're living for training. You can't, all of a sudden, the little things that you do, you can't do all of a sudden. Like your buddies want to go to a movie at 6:00 on a Thursday. You can't do that because you're training. You go to a birthday party and your buddies are having a few beers and you can't do that. It really is your complete life during these training camps. And sometimes you look at it and you feel blessed along the way, and other times you look at it and you think you're missing out on some life. So hard telling.
I got a call here. Who do we got on the line?
Hey, it's Matthew.
Hey, Matthew. So we're talking about, we talked about a lot of things. What did you want to shout out on?
Hey, I love Thug Rose. I love how she fights. She's awesome, but she's a little wacky in the head. So I don't know that her saying she's going to retire or something, really far out of line. She just may do it.
Yeah, and she may. Do you think she should?
Hell no. God, she looked so good in that first round. There's just no way I would say hang it up now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Matthew, do you think it's sometimes unfair that these fighters go through, get their, she just got dropped on her freaking head, and then it's like we expect them to make sense of what comes out of their mouth right afterwards?
No, but I think sometimes it's funny as hell. You kind of want to know, if you haven't been a fighter and you haven't had your bell rung and gotten up and started talking to somebody, I mean, that's kind of what they're doing, and it's like, yeah, I kind of want to see that. Let's kind of see what somebody goes through, and then see if they really want to jump in there and try it. But yeah, they say some wacky things after they get the bell rung.
So we have Rose saying she wants to retire. And then we have, we're going to talk about Anderson Silva and BJ Penn, who want to stay in the fight. What's your opinion on that?
I think BJ's pretty much done. UFC even kind of looked like, they did it with this fight. They didn't put him on the main card. They put him on the undercard or the prelims.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. They might be telling him right there that, hey, this is going to be it, buddy.
What about Anderson?
He's in a tough position. I love Anderson. I loved watching him fight. I mean, he was just amazing timing people. I don't think he's really got it. I mean, he probably could go in and be somewhat of a gatekeeper, but I don't know. I think his time is kind of past him.
All right, buddy. Hey, thanks for calling.
Hey, no problem, man. Have a good night.
Well, yeah, and I just think it's way too soon for Rose, but...
Well, I agree. Rose looked better than I think I've ever seen her. She was crisp. She was using her angle. She was outboxing her. And she just kind of made – it's not a rookie mistake. You just hold on to that Kimura as a defense, and I think she'll know. And she even admitted, hey, I just got a little lazy. As a fighter, you know when to let go. And when you're up in the air and you're at their mercy, but I hate to see her retire. She looked great. And I think she wins that fight 9 out of 10 times.
I do too. Well, I would go 8 out of 10, but yes. Hot Cheetos from the chat room says, I remember that Randleman slam. Epic. And was that the
That was
slam?
Fedor. No, that was
Fedor. That was Fedor versus Randleman is what he's referring to. But I remember the... Oh, and Frodo Creature, he brought up, Rampage versus Arona.
That's the one I was going to say. That's one of the best slams on the planet.
I was there. I was there for that one.
Had him in a triangle lock and held on. And, I've been in that position when somebody was holding on to my arm as well. And, you got to use whatever tool you have.
Anytime we can have a Pride flashback. Just... But yes, that was she pulled it out, and that's the beauty of the sport. Anything can happen at any moment. Here, there's just a few more words I wanted to play from that press conference from Rose.
We'll see. I'm not gonna make no decisions right now, but this is, I don't know. It's just hard to keep having fun with this.
Elaborating on that, Rose, I know you said on the post-fight show, you mentioned that you came into this already thinking that this could be your last fight, and that you kind of felt like you lost interest on the days leading up to it. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that, like what were you feeling and what were those thoughts that you were having about this?
I just gave myself so many things to do instead of just like just focusing on one thing, but I'm excited that I'll finally get to pay my house off. So
Sorry, got to pay what?
To pay my house off, so I'm excited about that.
Okay. And I think when you said after the fight something about removing a huge weight off your shoulders, is that what you meant?
Yeah. Just a lot of pressure, and I don't know. I'm still processing it.
Got it.
That's. I mean. A lot of things are said, and the fighters probably, sometimes after reflecting and having more time. So sometimes I think things like this, you just got to, unless you made the decision beforehand, it's like you just got to sit on this stuff.
Yeah, let's let it play out.
Yeah.
We don't want to look into it too much.
So we got up after that Anderson Silva. Not seriously injured from UFC 237. I was surprised about this. I thought when that knee went out that this was it. I thought there's no returning back from this. And this is going back, touching on Ronda Rousey and what we said about when coming up against that wall, that mountain, and failing, and then coming back to succeed or just try to succeed again. Not everybody succeeds in life, but everybody, at least you hope to fight for what you're going for. And he says here, until the limit, pain is your friend. It shows you're not dead yet. Silva wrote in Portuguese on his Instagram account. Thank you to MMA Fighting for getting the translation of that. They say that great symbols become great targets. Maybe, but the most important thing is not to victimize yourself. If you fall, get up. If it's broken, fix it. No giving up or thinking that you can't because you lost one battle. The saying is, I'm going until the end. And the more they pressure me, the more I'll want to go until the end. There's nothing more wild than feeling sorry for yourself. An old lion surrounded by hungry hyenas, crazy to eat him, and he still fights until death without ever giving up or feeling sorry for himself. And it won't be different with me. Strength and honor. I love that.
Partially I love what he's saying, but I've got to be honest. It's sometimes you just take a freak injury and fall down, and I'm glad nothing's wrong, but he's had multiple surgeries in his career. He's had a compound fracture on that tibia fibia. gosh, he's won one fight out of his last 7. I mean, and that one fight he won against Derek Brunson was somewhat controversial. A lot of people saw it the other way. It's one victory in 6 years from being the greatest of all time. And we could argue that he's one of the GOATs, I think, safely. I mean, he was a destroyer in his day, just murked people. But you know what I would love to see, because I'm a huge fan of Anderson Silva, but I'd like to see him go out with some style. Maybe talk to the UFC, have Ed Soares as manager go talk to the UFC, and maybe set something up special. Maybe during UFC Fight Week coming up in, I think that's July, and
like a Hall of Fame type of thing.
Yeah, retire with all the crowd around you, make a big deal out of it.
Do you think it's too soon to do something like that?
They put Ronda Rousey in immediately. I mean, come on, Anderson Silva is one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen.
There you have it. You got to. I like that. I like that. I'm going to the chat room here. Mike Tang, love what he's saying in referring to Anderson, but don't want him to fight anymore. Anderson needs to take a ayahuasca retreat.
It's ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca. Oh, okay. I need to listen to Joe Rogan's podcast more
to discover himself. We just went the thing with Anderson, and again, I'm a huge fan, but he went from the greatest of all time, and he's probably not even in the top 20 now, and just getting injured more and more. And we just want to see the safety of fighters. And I'd like to see him go out somewhat on top and not set a record.
Entertainment purposes only says, does anybody else see the irony in the fact that the spider's broken 2 of his legs?
We just don't want to see him. We just don't want to see him go where BJ's going right now.
Yes. BJ recently said on his website, bj.com, I know I am on a losing streak. I think they said it is the longest in UFC history or something. But that being said, I am not going out there and getting knocked unconscious. There are a ton of guys who would be considered in their prime who still get knocked out cold, even this past weekend.
I don't know. Here's my issues with what he's saying. And again, BJ, a big fan of his as well, and he's a trailblazer, and he's definitely going to be in the Hall of Fame. But he's on a 7-fight losing streak. He holds the record now for the most losses in the UFC. I mean, he's done incredible things in his career. I mean, he's fought Lyoto Machida, I believe, at heavyweight. I mean, he's just done incredible things throughout his career, and he's won 1 out of his last 10. His last win, and we talked about this on the call-in show during the fights. His last win was against Matt Hughes in 2010, almost a decade ago. A decade. It's becoming if you don't have the mentality, if you're going into a fight saying, "Hey, I'm doing just enough not to get knocked out and just enough."
Yeah, that's not the standard, is it?
No, you need to be in there and you need to be hungry and you need to be going for the win at any cost. And I'm not saying BJ's still not a great fighter, because he is, but at this level of competition, and Clay's awesome. Clay's 35-18 and a handful for anybody. Good friend of mine, big fan of Clay's as well. But these are the fights BJ should be more competitive with, and he's not. So at what point do they bring him back, or do they bring him back, or does he go to another organization like PFL, who takes a lot of former UFC fighters?
Well, this is I totally hear what you're saying, and it does seem like it's a time to make it's past time to make a decision on some of this stuff. But it's tough, because these guys are fighters at heart, and that's what I take. They love it. It's in their DNA. They are fighters. This might be controversial, but I don't look at Ronda Rousey as a fighter. She was a mixed martial artist, but she's not a fighter like BJ Penn, like Anderson Silva, like people that, at some point you're going to start losing, and you sometimes reinvent yourself, and sometimes you don't. And
and again, I wish the best for BJ. I think he's incredible. I love what he's done for the sport, and no matter what he does, I wish him the best.
Well, guys, this was our Tuesday night show. We're going to be doing this every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please smash the like button. Keep the conversation going in the comments section. Some great comments. You guys are pirates on this pirate ship of chaos is what we are, floating here through the waves of the MMA industry. Anyway, guys, we appreciate it. And we will see you next time this Thursday. 2 more days. Be here. See you later on the Lowdown.